Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antonio Fernández Paradas. I am a professor at the University of Granada. With the following video titled LGTBI Tourists in Torremolinos, Vision from the Heritage, we want to analyze the impact that the LGTBI community and its heritage have on the city.
Torremolinos has always been open and cosmopolitan. A place that respects freedoms. An example of tolerance. Characteristics that have always been part of the DNA of the city and that were enhanced with the tourist boom of the 50s and 60s. For this reason, more and more people from all over the world traveled to Torremolinos, who found in this corner of the Costa del Sol an authentic oasis to express their sexuality without any concealment. The city is considered the capital of Southern Europe for visitors who are part of the LGTBI collective. LGTBI-friendly hotels, nightclubs, bars, and many LGTBI-friendly hotels, nightclubs, bars, and many other leisure and dining options make this Mediterranean corner a must-visit place, which also offers visitors a range of sports, nature, sun, and beach to enjoy all year round. Every spring the municipality celebrates the Torremolinos Pride, a great festival full of events that claim the tolerance and equal rights of the LGTBI collective. A parade of floats, exhibitions, various activities, and gastronomic proposals are part of this event, whose icing on the cake are the concerts held in the Plaza de la Nogalera. Along with these two big events, different events and festivals take place in Torremolinos throughout the year, such as the Drag Gala, Matrix Sun Festival, Mad Bear Torremolinos, or the International Congress LGTBI+. The Plaza de la Nogalera is one of the centers of gay-friendly tourism in Torremolinos, known for its great day and nightlife, and the variety of stores, restaurants, terraces, cafes and clubs oriented to the LGTBI group that are in its surroundings. A cosmopolitan and lively area to enjoy the gastronomy and alternative leisure of Torremolinos. Very close to it is Pueblo Blanco, an apartment complex of Andalusian style and relaxed atmosphere, with small squares and charming terraces where you can have a cocktail or savor the signature cuisine of its restaurants. Very close to the center, the Bajandillo area is also a meeting point for gay-friendly tourism, as it has accommodations and beach clubs oriented to LGTBI visitors, with a lively atmosphere all year round and the possibility of enjoying the promenade, outdoor sports, and a variety of restaurants, beach bars, and terraces on the beach. Throughout the history of homosexuality, and that of the LGTBI movement itself, homosexuals, without being aware of it, have been bequeathing us a rich material and immaterial heritage that spans all civilizations and all stages of history. These contributions have received unequal treatment. The luckiest pieces have been elevated to the category of works of art and their importance has been diluted through their artisticity. The rest, such as heritage sites and places related to gay history, have had a worse fate. For their part, heritage sites and places of historical memory related to the history of the LGTBI movement and the repression of the same are beginning to have an incipient good fortune. Even so, the patrimonial visions, not the artistic ones, of these histories, are a field of knowledge of which there is practically no awareness, so the initiatives that are being carried out are minimal. When we speak of homosexual and LGTBI heritage, we do not refer to all those movable, immovable, and intangible assets that are important to build the history of homosexuals and of societies over time. The best known assets, and those on which the possibilities of protection have been poured, are those related to the repression of homosexuals and LGTBI collectives, in the case of Spain, circumscribed only to those assets that are linked to the Civil War, Francoism, and the transition, and those assets that are related to the history of the LGTBI movement. This double casuistry shows that the little that has been protected or is being attempted to protect is limited to the 20th century, and in most cases, to assets or patrimonies born after the 60s or 70s. One of the invisible, neglected and marginalized heritages that currently needs great pampering and attention is the LGTBI historical heritage, which is a full but invisible reality. We understand this heritage without a temporal circumscription, which in the Spanish case goes beyond the identifications with the Civil War, Francoism and the transition. As we mentioned before, traditionally LGTBI historical heritage has been diluted in its artisticity, with most of the contributions and conceptualizations coming from art history. But what about a historical cafe where homosexuals met in the 19th century, or houses and palaces with illustrious LGTBI characters such as Lázaro Galdiano? What kind of artistic valuation do we give to the Huelva prison, where many homosexuals were sent during Francoism, or the Tifia concentration camp for homosexuals? From the artistic point of view, we can give little protection to these sites, and many of them escape the dates of protection proposed by the laws of heritage. Thanks to the titanic efforts being made by the Pasaje Begoña Association, the passage is a reality that has returned to the limelight. It is promoting a multitude of initiatives for its conservation and enhancement, something really complex due to the nature of the space. Now, what possibilities exist to protect the Begoña Passage from a patrimonial point of view? Which are the initiatives that have come to fruition, and which are those that are still to be carried out? As we have mentioned above, so far the corpus of works on the passage have focused their interest on what happened there, the analysis of Torremolinos as a space for effective sexual diversity and the subsequent oppression with the raid. In other words, the importance of the events has been continuously highlighted, but little has been said about where they took place, about the physical space. This issue has been reflected in the fact that attempts at protection are aimed at preserving the memory, the immaterial, as opposed to the heritage preservation of space, understanding it not as the rehabilitation of the place, for which there are various proposals, but as a space that lacks protection under the laws of heritage. The history of Pasaje Begoña begins in 1962, when, faced with the demand for premises in the area, a builder of Basque origin, José María Aziamendi, promoted the development of the building. It was a large building located on Avenida Palma de Mallorca, bounded by the streets Antonio Girón and Paseo Zacatin, consisting of 6 floors, a basement, first floor, 4 floors of apartments and a rooftop terrace. From the point of view of uses, it is a structure that houses 55 commercial premises and 100 apartments. The floors have a surface area of 1,176 square meters. Initially, the basement was configured around 3 large premises. On the first floor, 28 commercial spaces were distributed. These were small premises, barely 20 square meters in size. On the second floor there were 22 places for establishments and 12 dwellings. On the second floor there were 40 apartments, 33 on the third floor and 15 on the fourth floor, plus 1 commercial space. The penthouse only housed 1 commercial space. The block was somewhat removed from the rest of the buildings, which allowed it to become a space with a certain degree of privacy. From 1962, the bars frequented by homosexual public began to concentrate in the commercial premises of the Begoña Passage. The building model that was followed was the same as the rest of the passages, crossings, sometimes covered, of the locality. The objective of this type of building was to create an open commercial center, to create a network of streets that were used for commercial use. Recently, in July 2020, the community of owners has agreed its integral rehabilitation. The rehabilitation will include facades, structures, electricity, plumbing, and coatings. The Pasaje Begoña Association has proposed to the different administrations a plan to collaborate in the rehabilitation and beautification of Pasaje Begoña and its surroundings. It is also planned to reproduce and install the neon signs that are so characteristic of the Pasaje. The aim is to turn it into a symbolic place and recover the aesthetics and splendor of the 60s. In this way, anyone will be able to stroll around and recall the splendor of the passageway at any time of the day. We are interested in highlighting several issues that we believe are the basis of the current heritage problems of the Begoña Passage. In the first place, it is worth mentioning that the stone wall was closed for several years. At present it remains open. While the Malaga raid led to the closure of the vast majority of the premises, the stone wall was one, while in Pasaje Begoña there were several premises that suffered the raid. Thirdly, an important issue is that while the Stonewall raid led to a reaction and resistance on the part of the bar's customers, which resulted in the first demonstration for the defense of LGTBI rights and the beginning of the LGTBI movement, the Torremolinos raid did not lead to a process of resistance or the establishment of the foundations of the LGTBI movement in Spain. Finally, in fourth place, we would like to mention an issue that we consider transcendental. The stone wall and its surroundings are protected by law, that is to say, the premises, the physical materiality and the environment are the basis of the events and the space to preserve the memory. This issue has not occurred in the Begoña Passage, and hence the multiple problems caused by its enhancement and protection. Currently, the Junta de Andalucía has the necessary legal instruments, so that, with the appropriate political will, spaces such as the Begoña Passage can be protected. The General Catalogue of Andalusian Historical Heritage has been established to ensure the safeguarding of the assets registered in it, as well as the consultation and dissemination of the same, and comprises three categories: the assets of cultural interest, the assets of general cataloging, and those included in the general inventory of movable property of the Spanish historical heritage. The purpose of the inventory of recognized assets of Andalusian historical heritage is to identify the assets not included in the General Catalogue of Andalusian Historical Heritage that form part of the historical heritage of Andalusia. Finally, the zones of archaeological easement identify spaces in which the existence of archaeological remains of interest, and for which it is considered necessary to take precautionary measures is well presumed. With respect to this issue, it is also worth mentioning that there are 20th century buildings, which due to their particularities and importance have the category of asset of cultural interest, BIC. The Andalusian Heritage Law of 2007 establishes 8 types of heritage: monuments, historic sites, historic gardens, historic sites, archaeological sites, ethnological sites, sites of industrial interest and heritage areas. Among these figures, Pasaje Begoña could be included in the monuments or historic sites, depending on whether we include the Pasaje Begoña building exclusively or, on the contrary, we include the surroundings, as in the case of the stone wall. This idea is reformed by the fact that we know that very soon the place that housed these premises became too small and new businesses spread to the surrounding area, and the whole area became known as the Begoña area or Barriada Begoña. If this second option is chosen, all approaches should be to delimit the environments to be protected. In our case, could be included in addition to the Pasaje Begoña and its immediate surroundings, the stairs of the cemetery down to the beach, as a historical place of meeting and homosexual practices, and the area of La Nogalera, where the Porquoi Pa is located, considered the first bar for lesbians in Spain, which remains open to this day for LGTBI clientele. Regarding the area of La Nogalera, it is worth mentioning that it is one of the historical urban spaces related to homosexuality and LGTBI collectives. It was the urban space that took the baton after the decline and closure of the premises in Pasaje Begoña. Within the protection activities that have come to fruition, we have to mention the declaration of the Begoña Passage as a place of tourist interest, under the protection of Law 13/2011 of December 23 of Andalusian tourism. The administrative procedure was initiated on February 21, 2020, delayed in time due to the pandemic. On October 23, 2020, the Andalusian Tourism Council issued the final favorable report. On December 1, 2020, the order of November 25, 2020, declaring the Pasaje Begoña in Torremolinos, Malaga, a place of tourist interest in Andalusia, was published in the Bulletin of the Andalusian government. Article 58 of the law mentions the importance of these places for Andalusian tourism. Article 58 mentions that may be declared of tourist interest those festivals, events, places, itineraries, routes, publications and audiovisual works that involve a manifestation and development of the own values and popular tradition, and that have a special importance as a tourist attraction in accordance with what is established by regulation. For its part, Article 1.2 of Royal Decree 116/2016 of July 5 emphasizes that the objective of these recognitions is to highlight the richness, variety and uniqueness of Andalusian heritage, highlighting those tourist resources that have a considerable tourist significance in terms of demand and that stand out for their contribution to the development of their own values and popular tradition that make up the tourist image of Andalusia. Within the different modalities of declaration that the law proposes, developed by Royal Decree 116/2016 of July 5, for the case of the Begoña Passage it has been chosen to use the figure of a places, by which is meant those cultural, natural, urban, sports and leisure spaces, such as museums, interpretation centers, unique buildings, cultural parks, wildlife parks and the like, which, by virtue of their value as a tourist attraction and the demand for visits they generate, constitute strategic resources for the Andalusian tourist offer as a whole. In the BOJA of December 1, 2020, the new rights of the Begoña Passage are included, but also its obligations. Among the rights only two are mentioned. A. To make it appear in the promotional actions. B. To be the object of a specific promotional work on the part of the competent Ministry of Tourism. On the other hand, up to 8 obligations are acquired through the declaration. These are the following. Avoid any type of action that entails the deterioration of the natural or urban environment linked to the object of the declaration. B. To favor the elimination of gender stereotypes and promote real equality between men and women. C. To contribute to the good tourist image of Andalusia, in consonance with the plans and strategies of the autonomous community. D. To maintain the specific and traditional characteristics of the declared object and to protect and conserve the resources and environmental values of the area associated with the declaration. E. To maintain the requirements that gave rise to the declaration. In the event of any change, the procedure for modification of the declaration must be requested in accordance with the established procedure and deadlines. F. To attend the requirements of information and documentation that, in relation to the object of declaration, are made from the competent council in the matter of tourism of the meeting of Andalusia. To such an effect, the promoters of the declarations will have to articulate a system of pursuit and evaluation of tourist impact, produced that in addition to providing information, allows to adapt to the new tourist demands and requirements. G. Periodically carry out actions to promote tourism of the declared object. H. To make correct use of the declaration granted in accordance with and faithful to the recognition effectively granted. The analysis of the patrimonial protections that have been applied to the Begoña Passage, those that are in the process of management and the options that can be carried out, have allowed us to become aware of the current state of the question of the protection of LGTBI heritage and historical sites, from a theoretical perspective, showing a lack of reflections on the matter. This same lack has been reflected in the national heritage law as well as in the different autonomic laws, showing the lack of specific heritage protection figures. Finally, we have analyzed the historical landmark that is assuming the file for the protection of the Begoña Passage, promoted by an association created for this purpose. It is an extremely interesting case, since it will be the first heritage property related to the LGTB memory to be legally protected in Spain. The realization of the work has also allowed us to demonstrate the defenselessness of the heritage and sites related to the LGTB memory that escape with the contexts of Francoism, and therefore to the laws of historical memory.